Goeienaand vanuit eisige Johannesburg. Baie welkom van die hele Fokus-span. Ek is Lenet Francis. Jeugdag is gister landwyd gevier om die Soweto-opstande te herdenk. Dit was weer eens duidelik dat jong mense in ons land steeds talle uitdagings in die gesig staar. Werkloosheid en armoede is maar net twee daarvan. Die week fokus ons op die Trek for Mandela veldtog wat geld insamel vir sanitêre doekies vir minder bevoorregte meisies. Trek for Mandela is elke jaar deel van die Mandela maandvieringe en jaarliks word berg Kilimanjaro uitgeklim. Die SAUK-span, Gillian Pelay en kameraman Thabo Madidlola gaan vanjaar weer saam. Hulle is vanaand hier om daaroor te praat en ons ander gas is die hoof van die Nelson Mandela Stichting, Sello Hatang, wat ons meer kom vertel oor die 100 jaar vieringe wat vanjaar vir Mandela maand beplan word. And thank you so much for joining us on this chilly evening. Sello, let's start with you. How has this campaign highlighted the plight of young girls in South Africa?
I think it's important. Thank you very much, Lynette. I think it's important that whenever we talk about these things, we take it back to people that are affected. Once you have a face that's connected to the problem, it becomes easier for South Africans to say, I think that's something that I can help with. I always go back to my mother, that my mother was a soldier for education, rather. So she would force us, you know, when boys are boys, you have just a little bit of a cough, suddenly you are dying. So I can't go to school. She will force us to go to school. But then later I realized that with my sisters, she was never that at least rigid that they must go to school. It's then that when Richard Mabaso approached me that it clicked. It must have been that she couldn't afford to pay for their sanitary pads. So every month she would let them stay at home rather than have the embarrassment of them going to school for one reason or another, and then they get embarrassed. And it's important that we then take it back to dignity.
Yes.
That as long as a parent has to face their child and say to them, I cannot help, it means poverty and inequality will keep hitting the child over and over, and their dignity is impaired. So this project is about righting that wrong, ensuring that we then have children that don't have to be counseled later. One final story I want to tell you about this kind of thing, how impactful it can be. Richard and I met this group of young women, and we asked them to campaign for us in Klerksdorp, in the Northwest. Yes. They came back with the story of going into a manager's office, and they told the manager about the campaign, and this manager cried. So she started weeping, and they then asked, why did we do anything wrong? She said, no, I was once that girl. It's to make sure that we do not have those stories of saying, I was once that girl. So let's take it up as South Africans, as the three of us, but it's beyond the three of us.
Yes,
it's beyond Nelson Mandela Foundation.
But how many girls have you been able to help over the years, and how has it impacted their lives?
I think at the moment we're sitting at about 400,000. Richard Mabaso can confirm that figure. But by 2020, we're hoping to have helped 2 million girls. So the target is for us to help keep children in school permanently, 2 million girls by 2020. And all the efforts that are coming through at the moment from government, from all the other angles, are helpful towards ensuring that especially rural girls don't struggle the way others continue to struggle.
Gillian, why are you so passionate about this particular project? Because this could possibly be your third time that you summit Kilimanjaro.
You know, I think Thabo and myself, we're such a good team. Personally, we've seen and we've heard the stories that Sello Hatang is talking about. You know, it's very hard to be behind the camera and a girl tells you the methods that she resorts to. Methods that you and I, Lynette, would never even dream about. I mean, you know how sensitive that time of the month is. Imagine you don't have the basics, let alone not being able to go to school, and everyone knows why you are not in class. The most humiliating ordeal a girl can go through. And if we, the three of us and many more, could save but one girl in it, that's why I don't mind going back every year to try and double summit, like we said now. To save just one girl, see her through tertiary education and have her become this beacon of hope for many girls who, you know, she can go back and say, I am a success story. The campaign has helped me. I mean, then we have really achieved a lot. And the SABC is in such a unique position because we've got all these platforms. We can tell the stories of these girls from the beginning to the end and show people how just one pack of pads, a 30 rand or dropping it off at the SABC, can change the life of a girl child forever.
I'm going to, in the second segment of our discussion, I'm going to touch on what it entails to double summit and what that actually means in physical terms and the challenge regarding that. This is your second attempt. The first one was successful. I know that has been emotional for you, Thabo. Why again then for you?
I feel very honored and privileged that the SABC gave us another chance to go back, because it could have been any person. But for me, it goes back when I was still at school. That I remember we were sitting in class, and then, you know, there was this young girl who stood up. She went front to ask for the teacher to go outside. And as she was walking, we started, as young boys, we saw like drips of blood on the floor, and we started laughing. Because of we didn't know. Had I known then what I know now, I wouldn't have done that. So that's a very personal thing. And I mean, like, even last week Friday, we were at Hazelview. It's so funny that the very same lack of knowledge that I had then, the young boys today, they still have it. They're still laughing at young girls. So for me, is to even to educate the young boys. Hold their hands, to show them, to tell them that, you know what, this is not sickness. They must understand. I mean, even us as men, we should understand and really, really be real men in helping out.
So after the break, we'll talk about what it takes for a real man and a real woman to be part of this project. Net hierna sit ons die gesprek voort. Moenie weggaan nie. Ons is nou terug. Welkom terug by Fokus. Ons praat vanaand oor die vieringe wat vanjaar beplan word met die 100-jaar herdenking van oud-president Nelson Mandela se geboortedag. Meer spesifiek oor die Trek vir Mandela veldtog. Ons gaste is die hoof van die Nelson Mandela Stichting, Sello Hatang, en SAK nuus se Trek vir Mandela span, Gillian Pillay en Thabo Madilola. So what does a double summit mean, and physically preparing for that? Because the last time you were here, you got quite emotional, and we felt it. The challenge of just one step at a time. So give us some insight.
So it's a centenary year. We wanted to push the limits. We saw our expedition leader, Sibusi Sivilani, doing this, and we were like, if we can train really hard and get the country to lobby behind us, and maybe have corporates, government, civil society, and ordinary people buy into our steps, we're looking at taking together about 250,000 steps in a 5-day trek. So if people could buy like 10,000 steps and give us 10,000 pads, imagine the change we could effect. So what this means, we will go up with the group. God willing, we will reach Uhuru. We will then descend. And if we are able, humanly possible, if we're in good spirits and good health, we will then try to ascend again. And that's going to be really hard, because we know how difficult it is just to do it once, guys. You're beyond exhausted. You have nothing more to give. So we've really changed our training routine, and I brought our elevation mask with. You know, it helps us build up our lung capacity. So it has vents, so we train with this, and in that way we are able to, you know, limit oxygen and then build up our lung capacity. And you know, we got to see on the day when we're there how far we can really push ourselves, seeing that we've gone twice and thrice before already.
Because like you do get mountain sickness, you know, like last year. I've never had a headache like that in my entire life. And the only thing that you can do is to drink a lot of water. And, you know, at one point, I was hallucinating. You know, I remember we were like walking very slow up the mountain, and from nowhere, you know, there was this beautiful bridge, very beautifully lit. You know, I could feel like you could touch it. And at that time, because they warn us, when something like that happens, you have to talk to yourself. Where am I? You know, who am I? What am I doing here? Exactly, and all those kind of things. But it's one of those adventure that money can't buy. When you remember the why, when you remember why are you doing this? For me, putting myself in that uncomfortable situation for those few hours is nothing compared to what our young girls and women in this country are going through every day of their lives.
Whilst you were talking, we were sharing some of the footage that you shot on your last summit. So just explain to our viewers the challenge of being a cameraman, and you, Gillian, explain to our viewers the challenge of reporting whilst having to concentrate every step of the way, because whilst you were explaining just how you're going to breathe that, the production team was saying, how, Gillian, why would you want to do that? So just, what's the challenge? Because we're talking about heavy equipment that you're schlepping with you, Thabo.
Yes, it is. It's not easy, but the irony of the whole thing is like us as a team. I don't see us smiling like that. We do fight, we do fight a lot, but fighting for a good cause, fighting that we must meet the deadline. It's not about the individual and all those kind of things. But the nice thing about it is like Mr. Velani, last year I had a meeting with him like long before we could start working on it. He will guide me. It's like when they walk, if I'm at the back, I don't have to be trying to walk fast so that I could be in front of the group. I should just walk slowly behind them, and then when they have a minute of water, I can walk in front of them. But at the same time, me having to film the walk and everything, it helps me to defocus from the pain, my body pain and the headache and whatever, because what I have to think of is just that shot all the time. And after that, the deadline.
Gillian, because that's the reality also, that there are deadlines that you have to meet, and particularly because it's an SABC project sponsored and driven by the SABC over all our platforms. What's your personal challenge of doing that?
I always say to people that when everyone else has got, thank God some of us don't get the nausea and vomiting until we get to base camp. But when I wake up in the morning, the first thing is, please let me meet my deadline. Please let me send that story through to headquarters. That is my mountain every day. And that is how I deal with it. If my story gets out to Johannesburg, then I have summited that day. It's the most, you can't prepare for this trip logistically. The satellite kicks out, you know how the laptop freezes. Anything can go wrong at any time. You can get sick as a journalist, as a camera person. So
I think one of the things that is moving watching the two of them every time, and I don't get used to it, is how while we're having dinner, they're sitting outside in the cold because they have to sit in a place where they can get access to the satellite. And on many occasions, last year I think I came and I went to them and said, no, this is unacceptable. Surely the SABC will understand if you send this thing in the morning. They said, no, it's for Morning Live. And for me, just being outside for a few seconds of going to talk to them, you freeze. Your hands are freezing. It is cold as ever. And you then see the commitment, and that's something we have to learn as a country, that it takes that kind of commitment to meet a deadline or to do.
But you've just described that. Why would you put, and our viewers don't know this, why would you put your 10-year-old son through that? Because I believe he's going to go with you this year.
Yeah, it's an interesting story because we had agreed with him that he will do it when he's 16, 17, he'll go with me. Then last year, there's a Canadian girl who then summited at the age of 8. Children and their technology, he saw the story. I get back home from summiting, he says to me, Dad, look at this. This girl, it's a girl. She summited. And I said, no, girls can withstand anything, my boy. Boys actually feel like we're dying every time we get flu. Or he says, no, it's a girl. I'm now turning 10, so I'm doing it next year. But I think it's because he then saw how his mother and I decided to be behind this thing, and we're putting our own bodies behind it.
Yeah, but the risks, you know the risk. I mean, we've had the tragedy of Gugu and that what comes with that. How do you prepare your son for that reality,
I
Sello?
think the thing that we're very careful of is that every step of the way I'll be monitoring him with experts. So there's doctors who will be with us. And every step of the way, if I wouldn't put him through a risky thing just for the sake of it. But it's what he says every time he's asked, why would you do this thing? He says, I hope it can encourage others to do something to help change lives of others. So it's that. If he can help change other people's perspective, the view of how you can help others, I'm hoping that it will change. At least one person to say, I have a responsibility to a neighbor. You know, I think in this case, it's that thing that the president called for Tumamina.
Because that's what I was also thinking about, the life of Utata Madiba, with that you cannot live within yourself. You have to reach out. That's how we build a South Africa. That's how we build a community. That's how we build humanity.
Precisely. And Madiba, if you remember, Madiba said that we can never celebrate our own freedom for as long as there's someone who is living in dignity, who's living in some kind of poverty because of inequality and all other things. And we can never just be saying we did well until they're all free. And I think it's that my son hopefully will be demonstrating to say sometimes it takes just a 10-year-old to then just, he doesn't have to even summit. He can just put 2 feet on his, 2 steps rather on the mountain, and he would have already summited, because it's that sense of doing something for another person. Selflessness that we need.
And we all have our own mountains to climb. We bly ingeskakel net hierna praat ons verder, moenie weggaan nie. Ons is nou terug. Oud-president Nelson Mandela was bekend vir sy liefde vir kinders, en vanaand gesels ons oor die planne om sy nagedagtenis te vier. Hy sou vanjaar 100 jaar oud wees. Die trek van Mandela veldtog het sinoniem geword met die Nelson Mandela Stichting. En ons praat juis met die hoof van die Nelson Mandela Stichting, Hatang, en die SAUK se nuusspan vir die trek vir Mandela tog, Gillian Pillay en Thabo Madilola. And I'm going to touch on in a moment about what this means for the foundation. But I wanted to really ask you to elaborate about teamwork, and if I wanted as part of the team, but I can't physically be there, how do I support you? How do I become involved, Gillian?
There's an SMS line that Mbumba Foundation together with the Nelson Mandela Foundation has established. You can either SMS the word Gillian or Thabo M or Sello to the number 42513.
42513.
But if you don't want to do that and you just want to go old school, you can drop pads off at any SABC office countrywide, and we'd prefer that. And if you're in a privileged position, buy into to the 200,000 steps that Thabo and I will be taking, and give us 10,000 pads, 50,000 pads, 100,000 pads. And you can, that would really change the life of a girl child. That's how ordinary people and people in privileged positions can get involved.
How do you encourage each other on this? Because I heard stories of you sometimes have to physically.
If they don't tell you everything,
in case they want to be discreet.
Let's see.
Okay, me. No. We are. Never mind earlier on when I say we do fight. Yes, we do. But we have to be together. We have to support each other. And she will always come to me. I remember last year, she will like, oh, I have a headache. Oh, I'm tired. And I will have to massage her feet. And she said, I give her the best massage ever. I don't know.
But that's teamwork.
It's in the mountain. It's just on the mountain. Don't take it too far. Don't think that it's altitude sickness.
So in terms of impact, with you double summiting, the fact that this is your 3rd attempt, what kind of impact are you hoping for? And what has been the response of your family? Because it is risky, as we said earlier on. How do you stay sane, Gillian, and how do you stay safe?
I come from a family, very supportive family. I am who I am because of my family, just like Thabo M, like Selowatang. We are able to do this because we have backbones. We have people who are standing behind us, in front of us, pushing us. They might not verbalize their fear, which we appreciate, but they encourage us every step of the way. We go with their prayers, we go with our faith, we go with all the well wishes from everyone around the continent and the country. Impact, the SABC is the best platform. I promise you, when we walk through the doors of OR Tambo, everyone knows what we've done for 5, 6, 7, 10 days. And it's because of the SABC and the stories that we are able to tell. This platform is a monster when it comes to human interest. And this platform is the only platform that can effect the kind of change that the foundation would like to see, that Richard Mabasa would like to see, that girl children would like to see, where we can put the African girl child first.
And I mean, the smiles that you see on, on their faces when you give them those sanitary towels is priceless.
Yeah.
You can't, the pains that you've gone through, even at that time, you still, because after like a month coming back, you still feel pains here and there, but it's nothing compared to the smiles that you see on those faces of those young girls. And, I always say a thank you is a prayer. When somebody says, thank you very much for risking your life, for me, is everything.
Now I'm seriously going to start getting emotional, eh?
One of the best things that Richard will tell you is there was a moment where we went to a school and we were now dispensing of these sanitary pads, and one of the girls then came to Richard and said, you don't appreciate what you just did. I'm starting my periods tomorrow.
Wow.
And I had nothing to then do with it. So it's that then makes the why so important. I have a photograph of Thabo almost crawling, and I always say that, and he was, that crawling for me symbolized this thing that once you know your why, when your feet can't carry you anymore, your why takes you there.
What do you say to some people who say, but it's inappropriate for men, even in national media, to be discussing something that many consider shameful, and where girls, when they don't have access, find it to be quite shameful. So how do we keep this in the open as a plight, as a necessity, as a task that all of us should be involved in?
The day we see fathers pick those sanitary pads on every aisle, it's the day we'll say we've made it. Because for us, it's about breaking taboos. The fact that the person who started this initiative is a man. Who was sitting under the tree, listening to his niece reporting the fact that she wasn't sure what was going on with her body. And then he then thought, oh, maybe I should intervene. It started by a man. The majority of climbers are men every year. So we need to be breaking this taboo. And each person, each viewer of Focus should then be saying, what am I doing as a man to change the tide of the story? Let's change the narrative.
And for me, I always tell guys that, sex is a choice, but menstruation is not. So, I remember like Mr. Hattam was saying, years back, my sister, for me, my first having to buy a sanitary pad, it was because my sister was menstruating and she didn't go to school. And because I was staying with her, and she gave me money and said, go and buy. It was the toughest thing ever in my life, because I was going up and down the aisle. I could see, but I couldn't take, because I was like, in my mind was like, I can't do this, I can't do this. But that day, the first time I bought that, that's when I broke the barrier. And
Silo, for people who want to know about all the other initiatives in support of the centenary here, can go to the website of the Nelson Mandela Foundation.
NelsonMandela.org. And Lynette, it's important that you help me out here. We've run out of tickets for the Nelson Mandela lecture. The Obama lecture, we don't have tickets anymore. But you can go to NelsonMandela.org for other information.
So please go to the NelsonMandela.org website. Maar jy kan ook vir Gillian en vir Thabo volg op Twitter by die hitsmerke @ of by Gillian Pillay en by Thibaut Touch 67, Thibaut Touch 67 of 67. Dis ongelukkig al vir vanaand. Thank you so much for coming. Thanks for supporting us and highlighting this cause. And as Focus, we want to ensure that all South Africans come on board for this. Ons is volgende Sondag aand weer op ons pos. Stuur gerus jou kommentaar, jou tweets en jou voorstelle. Jy kan dit e-pos na Fokus by sabc.co.za. Besoek gerus ook ons Fokus blad op Facebook, soek onder by Fokus SABC, en volg ons ook op Twitter by Fokus ZA. En as jy nou nie geld kan gee, dan koop gerus die doekies en laai dit by enige SABC tak af. Ons maak staat op jou en baie dankie dat jy alle jong meisies in Suid-Afrika op so 'n manier ondersteun. Ons hoop dit is 'n goeie week en 'n lekker aand verder. Totsiens.